Hello, welcome to video number 2, The Individual. A new election is coming up and you find yourself trying to decide who to vote for. There is a new crisis in a faraway part of the world and you hear the talking heads on TV rambling and screaming at each other about some important social, political, or economical issue. In all these cases you find, when you honestly think about it, that you do not really have a clue as to how to separate truth from hidden agendas and spin, or what you really think or believe on a specific controversial subject. Who's right, who's wrong, who's lying, who's distorting the facts or making an argument based on a false or wrong premise. So let's see what you need to know and understand about history, human nature, social structures, political ideologies, and philosophical arguments. Let's find the historical threads that connect current circumstances with past events. It all starts with the basic unit of society, the individual human being. When it comes to understanding human nature, there's an interesting fact we tend not to acknowledge or even think about. Humans come into this world in the 21st century equipped with the same hard drive and operating system, if you will, as they did in the time of Socrates or during the Ice Age. Our basic nature and innate skills are exactly the same. All the advances in science and technology, the great steps we've made in understanding the nature of the universe and how it works, the theory of relativity, quantum mechanics, string theory, etc., they do not change the fact that the individual human being still comes to this world today with the same raw emotional and intellectual capacities it did thousands of years ago. We are born naked, both literally and figuratively. The biggest advantages we have over other species is language. The fact that we have been keeping written historical records for the past few thousand years. Unfortunately, we don't seem to always take full advantage of that wealth of knowledge and information. In the case of the hard sciences, such as physics and math, we do very well at building on the foundation created by all the past generations. When a discovery is made and a new mathematical concept is proven or hypothesis is corroborated by experience, we do not go back and try it again and again and again. We build on that knowledge and keep advancing. Not so with the so-called social sciences, such as sociology, political science. These disciplines allow lots of room for subjectivity, bias, conflict of interest, opposing opinions, lies, and disregard for factual truth for the sake of personal gain. We could go on, but you get the picture. In this respect, humanity seems to be in a sort of perpetual infancy. Even though we have the historical records of all the different ways in which humans have organized themselves into social and political structures, and all the ways in which they have succeeded and or failed at it, we still seem to stumble in the dark and keep repeating historical mistakes over and over again. That is why you need to search for the truth as best you can. Because we now have so much access to facts and information at our fingertips, literally. There's no excuse not to do it. Unless you don't care, then again, if that's the case, you wouldn't be listening to this. Let's go back to the fact that every newborn has to learn everything from scratch. Now, laziness is part of human nature. There's a natural tendency to stay very close to our limited world of day-to-day activities and the fulfillment of our individual needs and narrow scope of interests. We stay close to the circle of our little tribe, quote unquote. The immediate family, the town, the country. Most people never go beyond that. Doesn't matter where they were born. Very few people question the traditions and beliefs prevalent in the social environment where they happen to have entered this world. Political views many times fall into the following pattern, quote, "My family has always been a Democrat or Republican or whatever. That's why I vote that way." If you happen to have been born in the United States, or you decide to make this country your home, there's no excuse for not having an understanding of the basic and fundamental principles upon which this nation was founded. Then again, human nature is powerful, and especially if you were born here in America, asking you to understand the concepts of liberty and the rule of law could be like asking a fish to understand the concept of wet. It lives in water, doesn't know anything else. That's why Americans tend to take this country and this nation and the founding principles for granted. It doesn't help that our schools do not teach an in-depth and in-context account of how and why this nation came into being, or how the system of government we live under really works or should work. What's even worse, ever since the late 1800s and early 1900s, the system has been steadily undermined, perverted, and distorted in incremental small steps by a pervasive ideology whose basic premise fundamentally opposes the founding principles of this nation. If the guys who set up the system, who we lovingly call the Founding Fathers, would wake up today, they would not recognize this country as the nation state they founded. Since we're still on the individual, let me point out another characteristic of human nature. Several characteristics. Self-interest, self-preservation, and self-centered perspective. Regardless of religious or spiritual beliefs, in our daily lives and routine, we see the world as if we were the center of it. Observe the behavior of children. This is natural, and we don't have much choice in the matter. In the physical world, we are our bodies, and our mind has to relate to its immediate surroundings through a very narrow and singular point of view. In the concrete world, we are separate individual entities who instinctively act to preserve and protect our existence. Observe how a crowd reacts when fire erupts in a confined space, or when the doors of a store open the morning of Black Friday, Wally World. These are characteristics we share with the rest of the animal kingdom, preservation. There's another side of this, though. The heroic acts of soldiers who bypass their self-preservation instinct and sacrifice themselves to save their fellow soldiers. This could also be said of parents and their children, or any other situation that deviates from that norm. There's also an evolutionary trait we share with other animals, and that is the cooperation instinct. We humans coexist in small groups. When humans coexist in small groups, where there is a chance to know all the other individuals in that group, there is a natural tendency to cooperate. We instinctively know that life is easier when we work together. We are social animals. Now, having said that, when we congregate in large societies in which the members are strangers to each other, big cities are an example, this tendency is suppressed, meaning that we tend to look out for ourselves and our immediate family. I'm not judging this, it's just an observation of reality and of natural human behavior. There's another characteristic of human nature very important to our discussion in politics, and that is lust for power. The tendency to want to impose our will and our opinions on others. In some individuals, this is a very strong tendency, and it runs the whole gamut, from the silly ego dispute between spouses to see who gets his or her way, to the power trip of a rapist when he engages in that activity, or the brutal and psychopathic behavior of a dictator. So, in summary, the individual is the basic unit of society. We have innate capacities that do not change with historical times. Language allows historical record keeping. Human laziness and bias prevents progress in social and political sciences. The tendency towards selfishness is balanced by a cooperation instinct. Lust for power is an important negative human trait that influences politics. I'll see you next one.